Takeda will be released in just about 24 hours, thus marking the end of Kombat Pack 1 and really year 1 of Mortal Kombat 1. And later this week, NetherRealm Studios will be announcing basically what's next for the game and what their plans are. With this announcement, I'm sure there'll be some kind of trailer or teaser about Kombat Pack 2, so I thought I would put together a video before that and talk about what characters I would like to see join the roster next. I did this years ago for MK11 DLC, so let's go over my top 5 MK1 characters wish list for Kombat Pack 2. Starting off the list is going to be Kung Jin. Though I didn't play him much in MKX and didn't really miss him in MK11, I think now would be a perfect time to bring him back. Obviously, we got a peek at the character model in the story mode cutscene, so I think it's relatively certain that he'll make it into the next DLC pack. And it would be cool to have him because we don't have any bow and arrow user in this game, and with the revamp of his kit and his backstory, I think they can make him a lot of fun with just some like unique moves. With Takeda on the main roster now, it would be cool to see some of their interactions as well as if he's still connected to Kung Lao. I don't know, I'm interested to see what they can do with this character instead of him just kind of like being an MKX and then never talked about again. And I'll be honest now, with the next character on this list, I actually couldn't believe I wrote it down. If any of you played MK11 or have been around the channel since then, please look away. Yep, my next pick is going to be Jade. But I say this with complete caution because that character was easily the most difficult to play against in Mortal Kombat 11, and I dealt with that online and ranked for like 4 years straight. However, my reasoning is 1, towards the end of MK11, I succumbed to my enemy and actually started playing a ton of Jade. But 2, we have a character already with extended reach in Tanya, and it's not the end of the world really when you play against her in this game. MK1 just has so many different options to deal with like literally anything that I don't think she'd be as overbearing as she was in the last game. Though, will still probably be pretty good. Furthermore, it's just weird to see Katana and Melina in the game without Jade, and yeah, Chameleon has a Jade variation, but there's just so much more that can be done with her character, especially in like the whole new timeline deal they have going on now. And a quick little aside here as I go over some of my honorable mentions, strictly because I couldn't just fit 5 characters in this list, and that's going to firstly go to Nightwolf. Now, I put him in honorable mention because unfortunately he was DLC in MK11, and I just don't see NRS adding him again as DLC in the very next game. But man, I love this character, and I thought MK11 did such an awesome job with him. He had some of like the best brutalities, and his moveset just had so much like weight to it. It was super visceral. Plus the different ways he used like the animal spirits. The character would be so good for MK1, and for me, if they added him again as DLC, I would be very happy. And the other honorable mention is honestly just like any cyborg. Ideally, Sector and Cyrax, though them taking up 2 spots in a limited spot combat pack could be a little tough to pull off, but the team at NRS has been super creative in how they're building these main roster characters. I'm sure they can find like a really cool way to get a character like Triborg into just a single slot main roster character, because it just hasn't felt the same without one. And what's cool is if you release a cyborg for the main roster, you can then drop a skin pack or ideally an in-game season based all around the cyborgs, where you could have skins for Smoke, Sub, Rain, any character that's ever been a cyborg and their cyborg versions. And back to the main list, and again, sorry to any MK11 fans, but it's gotta be Cabal. Easily one of the coolest characters to play every time he's in an MK game. At this point, just feeling like a complete staple to the universe, really. Some of the best skins, helmets, brutalities, the hook swords are just iconic, and seeing him in a quote-unquote new era would just be awesome. I'd love to see them lean into more of his like dark side, and just imagining the sound effects of his moves and his voice muffled by the helmet. It would all be so good, and honestly, it would be pretty tough for me to play as anyone else. In MK11, we saw a very airborne style of Cabal, and with MK1 having characters that literally fly, I think he would fit right in. Not to mention, Takeda is not out yet, but tell me this isn't like the perfect foundation for Nomad Dash. It's all I thought about when I saw this clip of Takeda. The runner-up spot is actually a surprise to me that I still am including this character in a wishlist video a year after MK1 has been out. And that's gotta be Aaron Black. Like, how is he not in this game yet in any capacity? I'd say, at least in my eyes, he's probably the most popular newcomer to the series. And I say that as in, like, characters introduced over the last decade or trilogy of MK games. And the way the character went down in MK11 was a little bizarre as well, because he was, like, the best character in the game. Then he got nerfed into oblivion. Then he got a little bit fixed up, and then everyone loved him again, but then literally he just like fell off the face of the earth. Though overall for me, I was having a good time playing Aaron like all the way from beginning to end of MK11. Now, if NRS always knew Aaron was going to be in the game at some point, and they just wanted to save him until Kombat Pack 2 for whatever their reasoning is, I get it. But again, I'm just shocked that there's nothing about this character yet a year after this game's been out. I'm really hoping he makes it in. He's always just one of the best, especially with the voice acting, the tipping of the cap, being a ruthless gunslinger. Like, like there's just so much to Aaron that so many people love. I think he would shoot right up to the top of the most played characters in this game for people. And my number one most wishlisted character, again, if any of you have been around the channel since MK11, this is a really easy one, and that's Noob Sabot. Getting human smoke in a game was really all I ever wanted, but my number one favorite characters in the MK universe are Noob and Smoke. And yes, that counts because back in Mortal Kombat Deception, Noob and Smoke were technically one character slot, so deal with it. But anyway, having both of them in this game would just be the icing on the cake for me. Noob, the resident edgelord, the roster just doesn't feel the same without him. I could only imagine how sick he would look in this game, especially with all the throwback skins that they've been releasing. I'm curious as to if they did put him in this game, if they would continue on with the whole like sickle kind of weapon deal, or if they would give him a new weapon, or if strictly his shadow would act as his weapon. But speaking of the shadow, that's what brings it all together for me. My favorite characters in anything always tend to be some kind of like puppet characters, and the way MK11 did Noob was perfect. Blending him fighting alongside the shadow, and the little details of like the shadow holding the opponent or pushing Noob out of the way so it could get a hit. Like, it was all just done so well. Though I will say, I don't think I'd want a Kenshi 2.0 where you literally have to control both of them. Maybe like a certain special move has those capabilities, but for the most part, I just want the shadow to be an overall part of his kit that is seamlessly transitioned between during like combos, specials, and animations. And while that concludes my list, what are some of your Kombat Pack 2 wishlist characters? Leave them down in the comments. I would love to come back to this video after the announcement and see if anyone's characters actually made it in. I'll also be dropping a separate video in a few days discussing what I would like to see for the future of MK1 overall, so be sure to subscribe so you get notified when that one is out.